Okay, so in this question, I'm going to show you, somebody asked me this in office hours, and in your version of the exam, these numbers in this table will be different. So I'm not going to give you this number 10 because it was a bad question, but it could be something else. It could be like, maybe I'll give you, you know, 700 or something like that. I don't remember. Maybe this number will be, let's say, 8,000, just for example. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so the first question to ask is, what is this saying? This is saying what percentage of pins are taken up by, whatever most common pin numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little line like that to say, hey, this is what happens if everything is chosen randomly. And that value would be what goes in here. Okay, so for example, 700. If I go down below at 700, it's right about here, right? Right about here. Where does that cross? Well, you actually know. It crosses at 7%. Okay, it's going to be right here, but it's going to be exactly, chop off 2 zeros and put a percent sign. That's really what's going to happen. Right. And so what happens down here, 100 is going to be 1%, 1,000 is 10%, 8,000 is 80%. Because why? Because we have 10,000 possible pins, and if they're random and you have 700 of them, what percentage is represented? It's like 7 out of 1,000, so that's 7%. So that's how you calculate this whole column, is you just divide this number by 100 and then pop a percent sign on it. So that takes care of that whole column. What about the other column? Well, you have to figure out where you cross this curve. So you just do the same thing, but now you're trying to see where you cross that curve, and in that case you have to trace back to where you are over here, and it's between 50% and 60%, so it's a little more than 55%, so maybe like 57%. So what we're saying is we would only get 7% if you take the top 700 pins. That should only give you 7% of all the lockers. Like if people could randomly set their locker pins, and then you would only open 7% of the lockers if you tried the top 700 combinations, because there wouldn't be 700 most commonly used pins. They'd all be identical in frequency. But in reality, you'll get 57% of the lockers to open up because people are not very creative in selecting their pins. So what about 100, like the top 100? Let's see what happens. Okay, so then this 100 is somewhere in here, and so that's about 35. So I'm going to just roughly say, well, that's about 35%. And what about 1,000? Well, let's look at that. Look over here at 1,000, and that's, oh, I didn't have this, whatever, it's 60%. And what about 8,000? So look over here at 8,000, where is it, where is it, where is it? Oh, I don't know, somewhere over here, right, there we go. And when we're up here, and we trace back, and it's about 95%. Okay, so then you'd say, okay, we get about 95% of the pins, and that's not too bad. We only expected to get 80%. We got 95%. It's not that different compared to, 35% versus 1%. That's a huge difference. So maybe it will help you understand this question a little better.